This video is for Jake over at the Canadian Craftsman. He makes all kinds of amazing stuff, including Kydex sheaths, glow-in-the-dark personal defense tools, glow-in-the-dark beads, and all kinds of cool stuff. He is always crafting away. He has a very specific question about how to wet form a leather sheath, so I thought I'd jump on here and kind of go through my whole process, just in case anybody else is also curious, because I've had this question before. Well, it's early morning, so pardon me while I take another sip. And we're going to get into it. I've got 3 examples here. These 2 are my sheaths. This is from Mountaineer Leather. I thought I would make this just on my phone, but you know, I need to do this freehand so you can hear the click. Okay, so this is, well, it's an Andal Tool Canadian Forest knife, leather sheath that I made for it, my little logo there. Lantern. Listen. Soft click. Okay, now here's another one I made before I had the logo. This is a AA Forge Trout. Listen to this click. Substantially louder. That is simply because these are treated with 2 different types of wax. Okay, now this is a soft friction fit sheath. See, there's no click or anything, it just slides in there. Now because it's friction fit, it does not fall out, but over time, the more you draw and place, it will eventually loosen up enough to where you might have to do something with it. Oh, Jake also made this lanyard, by the way. So, your first step. Wrap your knife in some plastic wrap, some saran wrap, something to keep it safe. You can even oil up the blade if you've got a carbon steel blade, but you just want to make sure it's nice and tight around there. And then prepare your sheath, getting it nice and wet with warm water. If you want to get a really tight fit, you've got to get it fully soaked. Now there are some methods, like in this case, I didn't get the whole thing soaking wet. I only did a little bit, and that's why it's a softer fit. Okay, but when I want a really tight fit, like with this one, I got it completely saturated with warm water. Okay, so that's step number 1. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put the knife back in its sheath exactly where you want it. Make sure it's nice, and you start massaging around the retention points. And you're going to pinch and massage around the retention points, especially here in this area. What that's going to do is it's going to help form around it. And then you let it sit. Let it sit for 30 minutes in a hot car if it is still summertime. If it's not, you can, I've used toaster ovens at a very, very, very low temperature, like 120 degrees. You don't want to go any higher than that or you might burn your leather. I've also used my oven at like 150 degrees and just left it cracked open. You just kind of bake it on a baking sheet. Make sure you put like some parchment paper down so that it doesn't create any kind of burns on your sheath. And then you're going to heat that up. And every 30 to 40 minutes, you pull it out and you do more massaging. And you need it totally and completely dry before you do the next step. If you don't, what will happen is your sheath, once you seal it, is going to get rotted from the outside, or it's going to rot from the inside. So you got to make sure it's 100% dry before you move on to the next step. So you're going to let it sit for a day, 2 days, 3 days. This one I vacuum sealed after I had massaged it enough and I felt good about it. I vacuum sealed it for a full day, pulled it out. It was still damp, so I just kept letting it air dry, letting it dry out in the hot sun. In the middle of summertime when I made this one. And then eventually, when it is fully dry, that's when we move on to the next step, which is treatment. If you want a slightly tighter fit, during the drying process, you pull the knife out when it's in the oven. Okay, it should be pretty solid already because you've been massaging it and letting it dry. But if you pull that...
When are you going to play this game?
Not yet. But if you pull it out of the oven but if you pull the knife out, leave it in the oven, what will happen is the leather will shrink a little bit. And that's what really promotes that nice tight fit. If you leave the knife in there, it's always going to have that saran wrap surrounding, which is what I wanted for this one, so that it wasn't as tight. I don't always like the super tough click. Sometimes I just want a nice soft fit. You have to treat your leather after you've wet formed it. If you think about it, leather is like skin. Pardon me. If you hop out of a hot shower, sometimes your skin can be left a little bit dry, and so you want to oil it up. There are a couple different types of oil you can use. Mink oil is what I used for this one. That's why it's a softer fit. And I just warmed it up with like a heat gun or a hair dryer. I forget which I used. And I just placed it in there, rubbed it in there, massaged it in there, and just soaked it up. That's going to protect it from any moisture, give a nice treatment to it. You can see it's got a nice matte finish. But with this one, I used beeswax, straight beeswax. I melted it down, and when this was fully dried, I submerged the whole sheath. Knife was not in the sheath, obviously. And then I attached these straps. It was very difficult because I had to punch through with an awl in order to get all the way through. See that extra stitching in there. Now, I've used different levels of beeswax mixture, and that's what creates different levels of click. If you use straight beeswax like I did on this one, it's a very tough and solid sheath. There's no flex to it whatsoever. You've really got to break it in. It takes a long time of doing this in and out in order to break it in. What I'll do is I'll use some kind of carrier oil like walnut oil or coconut oil, something that is less likely to rot or go rancid, and mix that with the beeswax, like a 70% beeswax, 30% oil, and that gives me the perfect amount of retention on a beeswax finish sheath. Another option is to not submerge it completely. So you just warm it up, put your beeswax on there, rub it on there, let it soak in, warm it up, do it again, and keep doing that, almost like you're treating a pair of boots. And that'll give you a nice solid sheath that still has a little bit of flex in it. Hopefully that explanation helps. It'd be easier if I could show you, and if that's of interest, let me know. I could probably find a knife I could make another sheath for. Got plenty of leather. But yeah. Any questions? Let me know. Oh, and definitely go check out Canadian Craftsman. My friend Jake is doing awesome work with all things outdoors on Instagram. I guess it's on YouTube too. Either one.